method, this is the method, string methods, and the name of the method is called as capitalize. Now what does it do? This method, I'm going to write the functionality of this method over here. This returns a string with the first character capitalized. Now where do we use this? As I mentioned to you, whenever you want the user to write their name or enter the name, as I always tell you, whenever you're giving a form, do not expect the data inside the form to be the required or the expected format that you want the user to enter in. It's not going to happen. They will be entering the way they want. So in that case, we would require this. So how do we use this? Say for example, let me just give you this information. Name, right? And I'm giving a keyword there is equal to input. Please enter your name. This is required. Now the user can enter any name he or she wants. But when I'm printing, I need to make sure that the name entered by the person has got just the first letter in capital form or capital format. Okay, so this is the code. I'm going to save it, I'm going to run it and show it to you. So please enter your name. I'm going to enter Tom. This is the fashion that the person is entering. All of them are in capital letters. All the letters are capitalized. So you see that the method changes the input into the required format that we wanted. Probably what you can do is you can simply say name, and then it would be much better, right? So I'm going to run this one more time, and the person is entering like this, right? Clearly you can see J is capitalized, SM is capitalized. Now imagine you don't have this method. What would happen? The situation would be chaos. It would be chaotic everywhere. And clearly you can see the output is beautifully generated. Okay, so that is the first method. So let me comment this off and move on. We got a lot of things to cover in this class. Now the next method I'm going to show you is called as casefold. Okay, so method number 2, let me give that method 2, let me write here method 1, and this is method 2. And what does this case method do? Now it returns the lowercase string. Okay, that's it. That definition is enough. It returns the lowercase string. Now when can we, or where do we use this? Say for example message. I'm giving a code here. Okay, message input and input, I'm giving a string. Please enter your message here. Okay, so the message has to be entered and the person is entering the message, and you got to get the output. So print message, say for example this message is entered, so I'm going to say message received from the user is this message input dot casefold. Okay, so let me save this and show you the output, how exactly this code works. So please enter the message here. The message is, say, the person is entering like this, everything in capital letters. Start issuing the tokens to the people who are waiting in queue. Right, this is the message. Can you see this? Everything is in capital letters. And imagine this message is 2 lines in length. What would happen? It would be very difficult for the person to read it, or the entire message system. Say for example, this is one message. Imagine you have to, or the person has to read 100 messages. It would be really taxing the eye. So we don't want that to happen. So when I say case input, you see that? Start issuing the tokens to the people who are waiting in queue. How beautiful it is. No hassle. Yes, I can read this without any stress on my brain, thereby protecting my cognition. Right? So that is a beautiful illustration. So let me move on. So this is going to be the third method, method 3. You see that the moment I put things in capital letters, it is really stressful. So method 3. So what does this method 3 does? It is actually, let me write the method. It's center. The application is, this method is used in centering the string using specified character. Okay, now how do we do that? Say, let me just give you this small illustration. Say name input, please enter name. Please enter name to be placed on the ticket. So you are issuing a ticket, you would like to place the name and you want certain format. At that time, what do? You print the name of the person in this fashion. So let me give you 2 illustrations. This prints the name. Let me give you this illustration. This actually prints the name in this fashion. Print name dot center. You're giving the center function, and you are giving some space. You want some space to be present there. Okay, say you're giving some 10 and you want some characters to be placed there. So I'm going to give you a set of prints so that you can find out the difference, right? Okay, save it, and I run it, asking for the name. So I'm going to give a name called, say, Sami, right? This is the name that's been given. You see, the first one is printed in this fashion. The second one is printed in this fashion. The third one is printed in this fashion. The fourth one, and subsequently the other characters. Right, now what if I were to increase the space? So I'm going to give 40 here, and I'm going to give 60. I save it, I run it. Please enter the name. So when I give 40, you can clearly see the format in which the names are coming, right? This has been, the first one is 40, the second one is 60. So this is how the output is. The rest of them has got no significance. The rest of them significance is not there, right? So I can just take these things out. So just for the sake of comparison, you can compare how exactly the name is getting printed. The first one, okay, I'm saving it and I'm running it. Name say Tony Sparks. So you see the output, the first name is printed as it is, but the second and the third, you can clearly see a vast difference, right? So among the 60 characters, 60 spaces are there. So if you were to count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So clearly, I hope you're getting the essence of it. So if you want 60, you're placing 60. Say for example, you increase the amount to 120, and then you save this and you run it. Say I'm giving John Bell. So clearly you can see that 120's distribution is in this fashion. So whenever you're writing some letters and you want this pattern to be featured here, this method comes into play. So it's really a very good method for formatting. So having mentioned this, let me just comment this. Method 3 is done. Let me move on to the next method, method 4. Now in this method 4, we're going to look into count. So what does the count do? The count is used to count the occurrence of substring, any given substring, right? Suppose you want to have a count of a certain substring present, you will be in a position to get that. Now for example, imagine the person is using a certain word in the sentence, right? Say let me just give you this input: message input, please enter your message to the client. say your thank you message to the client. You're asking this, and then after you've received this message, you want to count the string. Say count string input. Please enter the substring you wish to take a count on. Okay, so this is what that we are going to check. Okay, so that thing is received, and now we're going to set the print. You have used count string I need to give a space, and then I will give in the value. The value would be count string dot count of that particular word, or in this case what I need to do is I will, instead of saying count string there, I will say message, and over here I will say count string. Okay, so this is what that is going to get printed. So a message is going to be received, and in that message we are going to look for a certain word. Now this is for the word. You can also look for the letters in a word or in a string. So let me just save it and run it. So the message, sir, thank you so much for your participation, and thank you so much for coming, and thank you so much for giving. So clearly you can see that thank you is coming here once, thank you is coming here twice, thank you is coming here thrice, right? So I'm going all the way here, and then I'm giving an enter. Please enter the substring you wish to think. Thank you. See, 3 times. I can understand that the agency is very much happy and grateful that the client has come, but that doesn't mean that the agency has to pull itself down, right? So this exactly is a message to the client, but apparently it shows that the agency wants to belittle its own self because the agency has performed certain work, but it's thankful that the client has given that project. But of course we should also consider that the agency has done their work in a good manner. That's the reason the clients are coming. But this message, thank you, thank you, thank you, too many times doesn't look good. So what we need to do is, first we have understood that so many thank yous are coming. Now what we need to do, we need to get rid of that. So this particular method is very much useful in that. And I have just shown you an illustration for a substring. But as I mentioned to you, you can also apply this anywhere you want, whenever you want to get the count. So that is for method 4. Now having given you the method 4, let me go on to the next method. So this is method 5. Now method 5, now here we are going to talk about encode. Now this encodes the string into bytes. Now you have to understand, where do we use this? This is largely used for security purposes. Now I hope you have heard of the term DNS. Now whenever we access a website, that website name is issued by the DNS. It is in human readable form, but in reality the website occupies zeros and ones, and in fact it should be, the website has a IP address. That's the best way to say it, and the space occupied by this IP address is in bytes, right? So the best way to mention here is the machines understand only digital formats, but customer, clients, people, we cannot be remembering IP addresses. So whenever the translation takes place with regard to the space, they are actually converted into bytes. Now the use is, as I mentioned to you, for security purposes we use them, and we also can use them with regard to the space, right? So we want to know how a string is encoded. You would be in a better position to understand when I give you this illustration. Say string input is equal to input. Please enter the string. And the string is received. Over here we print string input dot encode. Okay, this is just a 2-line code. I save it and I run it. So I'm going to enter this name Tom. So this is how it is encoded. Now let me move on to the next method. Method number 6, ends with, right? So method, let me mention the method. Method 6 is ends with. Ends with. So this method is used to check strings with a specified suffix. Now this can be used in checking the codes. This can be used in text processing. This can be used in user inputs, and so on and so forth. So let me give you an illustration. Say a question. I want to test the capacity of students in Python keywords, right? So question number 1 is, say, input. What is the keyword that is used to check else if condition in Python? Right? Straightforward. The student is entering the answer. Answer 1 is equal to input. The answer is received. We got to make the check. I'm looking for elif, right? So how do I check that elif? I'm going to say if answer 1 dot ends with, I'm going to give ends with elif, right? If this is true, then you print you are selected. something like that. Else you print, please do your homework well. This is the message. Okay, you understand. I hope you understand what is written here. So we are actually checking if the person is aware of the else if condition. So this is just an example. As I always mention to you, the sky is the limit where you can apply this particular method endswith. So I'm going to run the code. When I run the code, what is the keyword? It's elif. This is what I want. So the person enters this. You need to enter it over here. Okay, so you are selected. It's not over here, we have to enter it over here. So you are selected. Okay, if I were to run the code again, say he's entering some other code. Please do your homework well. Okay, so that is how this code works. And we will move on to the next illustration. This is method number 6. Method 6. Now what is the method we are going to do? We are going to learn about expand tabs. Now this is very useful. Expand tabs, right? So where do we use this? Now this method is used to replace tab characters with space, right? And the default size is 8. Default tab size is 8. This is just a side note. Okay, so let me move on to method number 7. Method number 7 is find. So what does this do? Find, let me write that down. Find now it searches for a substring and returns its first position. Remember the first position. And if in case it doesn't find what you are looking for, then it will return -1 if not found. Okay, this will be the outcome. -1 will be returned. So how exactly does this work? Say for example you want to check the username. And you're asking the person to enter the username. Input, please enter your username. Now this username is given to all your employees, and inside this username you are looking for a specific character. If the check is true, then the person is a authenticated user, or the person is a genuine user. So that's exactly what we're going to do. So this is going to be the check user. And how do we check it? We check in the following fashion. So say for example, let me get the check. Input, please enter the character or anything that you're looking for. So in this case I want to look for the character. Please enter the character that you are looking for. So that character is actually received here. Print, I will say it like this, the position of the character is, so the position is gotten for the character in username dot check underscore user. Right, this is the check we have got, and we are finding this. Okay, so that's fair enough. So I'm saving it and I'm running it. So I'm receiving the user Tom percentage Jill ampersand asterisk. So what is it you are looking for? I'm looking for this symbol. I want to know the position. Now for all the users I have given different position, but I know that for Tom the position should be 0, 1, 2, 3. You see that the position 3 is brought there. So that's the beautiful illustration. Now you can again run it and you can get another person's name, say JAS jazz person, say $, and UIO like that, and an asterisk. Now I'm looking for a $sign for this user, right? So I'm clicking on it and the position of the character is 6, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. You see that? It's a lovely. So that's a lovely code to demonstrate find. So I will comment this off and then I will move on. Okay, the next method number 8 is alnum, or let me just give this method first, is alpha. Right, now where do we use this method is alpha. Now you are receiving input from the user. This is used to check if the string has only characters in the alphabet. Okay, so enter username, input, please enter your name. Now whenever you are giving this in a form, there is a likelihood that you may not get the name in the expected format that you are looking for. So what happens in that case? You will have to convert it in the format that you want. So you are going to do that. Print, you're going to ask first the question, print enter username dot is alpha. If it is true, then you don't have to do anything. If it isn't true, then you got to do something about the data that you have received. So I'm going to run this. I'm going to run it. I'm going to enter a name. Say key90. This is not going to be true. I know that. You see that? False. So I got a data like this, so I need to go and check what is the issue. I'm going to run it one more time. Some people will give names like this and then like that. You see that? False. I'm going to run it one more time. So this time the name is got true. So that's an illustration for is alpha. So let me comment this off. Now this is the next method, method 9. Now this is going to be is alnum. Now in this method you want the username to be filled with alphabets and numerals, or it can even be a password check, right? So this method checks the string for alphanumeric characters. It should be alphanumeric, probably checking the username. So I can say user name is equal to input please enter your username. So check is the name is received, and you want to know if it is alphanumeric or not. So username dot is alnum. If it is true, then it's fine. If it isn't, then you got to do something about it. So please enter your name. So I'm going to say Tom 123. That's fine. It's true. Let me run it one more time. In this case, Tommy zip false. You see that? There's no numbers involved here. So that's a beautiful code example. So we move on to number 10, right? So method 10. In this case, you want to check if it is a digit or not, right? So that's also a very important format check, is digit. So let me give you an illustration. Is digit checks the input data to see whether a digit is entered or not. Now this comes mainly for credit card information. Whenever people are requested to enter the credit card, sometimes they would enter names or alphabet characters, or by mistake they would enter an alphabet or letter in the English alphabet. So we need to get that check also. So card information is equal to I'm just going, this is going to be the line of code. So let me go and enter a name. Say names, something like that. So it says false. So let me run it one more time. Now this time I'm going to enter 1 2 1 3 5 7 8 9. Okay, and it says true. So that is how this code works. So we have seen 10 methods, and we will continue our class again. Good day, students. We are continuing our study on string methods available in Python. So in this case, we would now start off today's class with this particular method, split. Now, how does this method work? Split is a method which would, when applied on a string, will split based on the delimiters. Okay, so the best way to understand this method is by an example. So let me actually take an illustration. Say for example, let's say user name with the hyphen there is equal to, say we have a name in this fashion, string, say Tom Hardy Smith Jack. So you've got a sequence of names: Henry, Hughes. Okay, now I want all of this to be split as a list of substrings. So what is my requirement? I want the string to be split as a list of substrings. That's my objective. Why am I doing that? Because with strings, I wouldn't be able to do anything with regard to the data there, because strings are immutable. But if I can convert them into list, then I can manipulate the data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say user name list is equal to, I'm going to have this user underscore name there, and then I'm going to call this method split, and as I mentioned to you, it will split whenever it sees the delimiter, and then I will say print user name list. That's it. Save it, run it, and see for yourself. See the beauty of it. So that's the first method in today's class. So the next one is going to be the join method. Now this method joins elements of an iterable list into a single string using the string it's called on as a delimiter. So the best way to illustrate this is via an example. Let me comment all of this. Let me comment all of this and move on to the method. Now this method, as I mentioned to you, is called as join method. And how does it work? It joins elements of an iterable like list into a single string. I got to mention that, single string. And how does it do that? Using the string it is called on as delimiter. Okay, so if I were to say user name list is equal to, I am going to give a list. So the list has the following. Say W, comma, the A, R, N, E. Okay. Now I would be calling in the join method. So to get the join method, I'm going to say print. I'm going to give the delimiter. This is going to be joining the elements in the list, and place the method and open the parenthesis and place the username list. That's it. So you save it and you run the code. So you see that one. Now instead of this, if you were to place an asterisk and save it and run it, then you will get the asterisk. So probably you give a space here and a space here, and then you save it. So you get it beautifully like this. Now you can actually join other methods to this to make it more presentable or attractive. So this is how the join method works. Now let me move on to the next method. The next method is called the strip method. Now how does the strip method works? Before I could move on, let me comment this line of code. Okay, so this is the method I'm talking about, strip. Now this method removes characters and white spaces. I mean, by default it removes the white spaces from the beginning as well as from the end. So okay, let me just state it like this. This method removes white spaces. White spaces, this is by default, but you can specify what you want to remove, right? From the start as well as from the end. Okay, of a string, that's important. So let me just give an example. So white spaces, say I'm going to say user message is equal to good morning, like that. So there are white spaces in the beginning and white spaces at the end. So I want to strip them out. Now what I can do is I'm going to give two illustrations. So in this case, it's going to strip the spaces out. Now I will give a print with the user message, and I'm going to give a print with the user message with the strip method being applied on. Right? Now I'm going to save it. Now you will find two differences. In fact, one difference among these two outputs. See the difference here. This is carrying the spaces. The first one I printed without the strip method being called on. The second one is the output where the strip is called on. Now you might be wondering, say for example, if I were to call this method and then let me just give a sentence, everybody, okay, and I'm going to give the same thing over here, copy it and comma, place a comma and place that message, and you save it and you run it. You see that the space in the front is not removed, the space in the back is not removed. But in case of the second line of code where the strip is being called, the space is removed, and that's the reason everybody is present here. So this is a lovely method. So I hope you understood this code, and let me go and comment this off, excuse me, and I'm going to go to lstrip and rstrip. So this removes white spaces by default from the beginning or from the end. So depends on how you want it. Say sometimes it becomes necessary that you want to remove only from the beginning. So let me actually take the same input. I'm going to take the same input. I'm going to say user message and good morning. Right? I'm going to print user message, and then I'm going to print user message. The only thing is, in this case, I'm going to apply the lstrip for this, and then I'm going to say welcome. So now you will see the difference. In this case also, what I'm going to do, I'm going to say welcome. So two lines of code. Let's see how different they are behaving. You see that the first one, the space is not removed in the beginning, space is not removed at the right end, but in the second case I'm removing the left space, right? But the right space is not removed. So what we need to do to remove the right space, now this is the next print. In this case, what I'm going to do, I'm going to apply R and I'm going to save it. You will find the difference. You see there, the right side space is removed, and that's the reason welcome is so near. In this case, the right space is not removed. In this case, the left space is not removed, right space is not removed. This is a beautiful illustration of lstrip and rstrip. So over here, I'm going to give the comment statement. This is the functionality of lstrip and rstrip. Okay, and probably I will comment this code now, and I will move on to the next one. So this is the next one. The next one is an interesting one, which is I've already mentioned to you uppercase and lowercase. Say suppose you want to convert all of the messages to uppercase, then you can use this method. So let me go and place this method here. Upper. What does it do? Converts all characters to in a string, that's important, to uppercase. So how does it work? Now usually title, right? Say for example there is a template application you're designing and you want the user to enter the title. So title message, this is going to be the message. How to fry fish and make curry. This is the message. Now when I'm printing, I want the message to be printed like this: title message dot upper. Okay, now this is going to be the next message, so you will understand the difference. Upper, no, it's not upper, it's just a title. I need to show you the difference. So I'm going to save it and I'm going to run it. So you can clearly see the second one just merely displays whatever we have given, but the first one displays exactly the way that we wanted. We wanted everything to be converted into uppercase. Now what if I comment this and move on to the next one? The next one is lowercase. Say you are asking someone to write a message, so this is going to be lower. So what does it do? It converts all characters in a string to lowercase. Okay, so this is the question, or I should say this is the code. Enter message. Enter message. You have a variable and the person is entering the message. I will arrive at the Victoria station tomorrow at 5 minutes past mid-noon. Okay, now as such this is very difficult to read. Imagine this is being sent as a text message and someone has to decipher this. When I say decipher, capital letters are too taxing on the eyes, so we can't have a information like this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this information and I'm going to change this to lower. Okay, so this is one application. So what I'm doing here is I'm just text processing, but you can also apply the same thing when you are receiving URLs from people. People have a habit of placing elements or some characters in the URL as capital letters. You can actually streamline them. So a validation can be applied there using this method. So I'm going to save it and I'll run it. So you can clearly see that the message in capital letters is converted into lowercase. So that's a nice illustration. So let me comment it and move on. So the next one, as I mentioned to you, is the title. The output in this case would be only the first letter in the words would be converted into uppercase. Sometimes it becomes necessary to convert, to apply that. So for example, okay, let me name it like this: countries tours, or tours for countries, or something like that. You can name the variable the way you want. So you wanted to enter the list of countries where tours are currently operating on. Okay, you have a company and you have tours for these countries. So you are entering names like this, say Germany, okay, and the next one is Australia, and the next one is Austria. Oh, you can see, and the next one is England, and Serbia, okay, Slovakia. Now this is not the way to present the information, specifically if you are running tools for well-off clients, right? They would want a proper formatting to be seen there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use print countries dot, I'm going to call this method title. Now when I run it, you can clearly see the output. You see that all of these countries are carrying a capital letter, and that's the way, that's a format to actually practice. Okay, so having given you this title method, let me give some write-up on the title method. Title method, this method converts the first letter of the word in a given strings or in a given string. Okay, so I have to place n there in a given string. I'm trying to be grammatically correct as much as possible, even though I'm doing multitasking here. So okay, anyway, the first letter of the words in a given string, that's fine. So let me comment this off. So now let me move on to the next one. The next method is called the replace method. Now what is the functionality of this method? Now this replaces the occurrence of a substring in a string. Okay, so if you are giving a string, a substring, and you are actually interested in looking or replacing some part of that particular string, right? So you have a string and your intention is to replace some part of the string. So we would have to get the substring and we would have to replace. So how do we do that? So let me show you this. So user message is equal to, I would say in this case, I want you to do this job. And whenever you say I want, it means you're demanding a person, right? So you want to get rid of this message and replace it with I would like, or I request you, right? In place of want, you want to say request. So what you can do is user replacement is equal to, say, input, and I can say please enter, just to make the code a little bit interesting, enter the substring that you wish to be replaced, right? So in this case I'm going to print this off. Print. Over here I'm going to say one more print. Print. This is the message that was received. Okay, and your job is to replace the word want. So from here I'm receiving whichever word that has to be replaced. Okay, so over here the replacement takes place. Okay, user refinement, some keyword I'm giving, is equal to, so from the user message I want to replace the word given by user replacement, right? And I want to replace it with the word. You can also ask here, okay, suggestion, user suggestion, okay, is equal to input, please enter your replacement. your choice of word. Okay, so that is got here, and you just enter that user suggestion. That's it. And then you print what? You print that user refinement. Okay, that's the code. Okay, because this is the main thing, right? This line of code is the input. Okay, now if you want to receive the input, then you can suitably change it, but let me see the output here. Okay, so this is the message that was received. I want you to do this. Okay, fine. Now please enter the substring that you wish to be replaced. I don't want there, so I want to be replaced, so I'm entering want. And then please enter the choice of word. Request. Okay, so I request you to do this job. Okay, wonderful. This is a very interesting illustration. Now in this manner you can actually change this into an application, right? You can receive whatever input you want. I leave it for you, so you can try that code and give me your output in the comment section. So after replace, next is starts with. Now this checks if a string starts with a specific prefix and it returns true or false. Okay, so let me write that method starts with. Okay, this function checks if the string starts with the specified prefix or not. Okay, so the output will be true or false. Now imagine you're sending an invitation to some professors and you want them to come to your seminar or come to your presentations. The most important thing is you will have to ensure that their names are starting with proper citation. You will have to ensure that the names have the citation PROF, professor. Okay, so that's exactly what we are going to do. We are going to check. So participants. Okay, participants. I'm going to give professors. Over here, let me take the input. Please enter them. Let me take it like this. Input. Please enter the name. Please enter the professor's name. Now I have already given the requirement, but whenever the data is entered, people may not place in the citation. So the professor's name will be received. Now we need to check here. So what is the check? Print participants participants name, participants underscore professor dot, I'm going to say starts with lowercase, within quotes. It should be like this, professor dot. Okay, this is the check. Now let me run it and show you. Over here I'm going to say professor dot John, right? That's the input. So a check will be now carried out. True. Okay, fine. So like this we can check any given name, so the data can easily be achieved. Okay, so that is a beautiful illustration. So let me go up to the next illustration. So this is going to be partition method. Now what does it do? It splits a string into 3 element tuple containing the part before the separator, the separator itself, and the part after it. So this is an interesting way to extract information from a string, right? So let me comment this and give the definition. So what does this method do? this method extracts, right, or I can say splits the string into 3 parts. Okay, so as I mentioned, so what are the 3 parts? The part before the separator part, and the part after the separator. So this is how the function operates. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to give a string. Now why are we utilizing this function? Because whenever, as I mentioned to you, you're having a string, any information present in the string cannot be mutable. In other words, you cannot change them. So they are immutable. But if we want to have some changes on the data, we need to convert them from one data type to another. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to utilize this method to convert the given string into a tuple. Okay, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. So okay, so let me enter it like this: fruits for health. Okay, so BANA, banana. Okay, banana, apple, oranges, lemons, pineapple, okay, pineapple, then what else? Peach. Okay, so these are the fruits that we think are good for the body. Now this is in string form. Now we need to get it in tuple form. So what I'm going to do is fruits tuple. I'm going to create a tuple like this. So take the fruits health and then apply the partition. So you need to say partition and the separator. What separator are we using? Comma. Okay, and then you have to print this. Print fruits tuple. That's it. So execute it, and clearly you can see that you are getting the output. Okay, the next method we are talking here is zfill. Okay, now what does this do? This method fills a string with zeros. Okay, until it reaches the specified width. So that would mean we have a parameter here, that is width. Now we need to place a code here so that you can understand. I'm going to ask the expenses from the clerk, amount of expenditures that had occurred for the week. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say number 1 is equal to, say, input. Please enter the amount spent on Monday. Some office expenses, right? Say buying refreshment or things like that. So I'm going to copy this. So the clerk will enter the amount for Monday, and I want to get it for Wednesday, and I want to get it for Friday. So I would like to change this to 2, and this one is going to be, say, Wednesday, and this is going to be Friday. And we have to change the number, so this is going to be 3 here. So now imagine for Monday the person has spent 120 for some expenses, but for Wednesday the person has spent $1,221. But for Friday the person has spent, say, $10,200 or $10,221, something like that. Now all these things have to be formatted properly. So that's where this zfill comes into play. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to say print, I'm going to say number1 dot zfill. I'm going to place in 5 there and print the output. So I'm going to copy this. I'll print the second one and the third one. Okay, it looks fine. I'm saving it. I'm going to run it. Now when I run it, it's going to ask for the amount spent. So as I mentioned to you, $120 were spent on Monday. For Wednesday, $1,221 were spent. Now on Friday, $10,221 were spent. Now you can clearly see all of these things are in different format. First one is a 3-digit number, this is a 4-digit number, this is a 5-digit number. But when we are displaying information, it has to be ordered, specifically given the fact that we are dealing with finances and it's also a company. So I'll show you the output. You see that? 1, 2, 3. It's a 3-digit number, but yet I have placed zeros in the front. It's a 4-digit number, I placed a 0 in the front, and it's a 5-digit number, it's placed as it is. So this is the beauty of zfill. Okay, so having got that out of the way, let me comment this off and move on to the next one. The next one is going to be swap case. Now what does swap case do? It swaps the case of each character in a string. That is, uppercase becomes lowercase and lowercase becomes uppercase. So this can come in handy depending on where you choose this particular functionality to be put in place. You know, it can be anywhere from securities to text processing, right? Or even a game. You're writing a Python game, you want to have some text, letter swaps, you can do that. So I'm going to just simply demonstrate this method. So I'm going to say swap case. Okay, so this changes the upper case to lower case and vice versa. Okay, so how does it work? User input, I'm just taking a user input. Say probably this is the first user input 1. I'm going to say input, enter the word, some word the person is entering, and user input 2, and this is enter the next word. This is the second word the user is entering. Now I'm going to print this off. Print whatever the user has given in the first input. You change everything, swap it, right? So I'm going to use swap case. Just say swap case, that's it, you call in the method. And then over here, user input 2. You swap case, you save it and you run it. You run the code, see what's going to happen. Enter the word, marvelous. Enter the second word is say happy notion, okay, something like that. So clearly you can see the first word is converted into uppercase, second word is the lowercase into uppercase, uppercase into lowercase, lowercase into uppercase, uppercase into lowercase. That's fantastic. Okay, so that completes this swap case, and we will move on to the next one. The next one is rfind. So what does it do? It returns the highest index where the substring is found, okay, and returns -1 if it is not found. So when you say highest index, say for example, let me give this message. Okay, first let me write the method. The method is rfind. Okay, rfind. So when you say rfind, it is actually moving from the right side. Okay, it returns the highest index of the substring that is found. Okay, and if it is not found, returns -1 if the substring is not found. Okay, so now I'm going to say user message. So imagine a message is of this fashion: good day all, nice to see you, good. Okay, nice to see you, good, and cheer. Okay, now the index would be from this end, but apparently this is the word that we are looking for, right? So this word is present here and this word is present here. So let me just say print rfind, print user message dot rfind. So what are you trying to look for? You're trying to look for this word good. Okay, so let me click enter and check this off. So it says 30. Now it is occurring over here. So this is the word that the Python engine is looking for, right? So when you count the index, it's actually counting from the left end. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and this says 30. G is 30. That's the reason it is displaying 30. Okay, so when it's looking for the word from the right hand, but when the index is displayed, it is displaying from the left hand. Okay, so having got that, let's wrap up with ljust. Now what does ljust do? Let me just comment this off and give the ljust method. Now this returns left justified, and if you're using rjust, it will be right justified version of the string, padded to the specified width. Okay, so now let me give you how the ljust and rjust works by an example. Okay, so imagine I want to give a user input. User input, say a string. Dynamic programming. Okay, dynamic programming, and I want this to be printed. So I'm printing this user input, and with that it has to be left justified. That means it has to start from the left end, so left justified, and after this the total number of space it can take is 20, and for the rest I can place an asterisk. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to print this again, and this is going to be rjust, and you will see the difference. So I'm going to run this. You see how it acts. So dynamic programming, it starts from the left end and there is an asterisk there, and over here it starts from the right end and then there is an asterisk here. So both these things are totally different, left just and right just. Probably what you can do is say, instead of say 20, I've just given 20 spots there, make it to 60, then you will find the difference. Say that, that will be more vibrant. You see that dynamic programming, and the star goes on. Over here the star is printed first. In fact, it is the printing takes place from the right side, and then for the empty spaces it's been filled with stars. So students, I hope you enjoyed this class today. We will again meet for studying the rest of the string methods. Welcome students. In this particular class we will see other string methods available in Python. Now these are some of the most advanced methods and they are all of critical importance. So this is the third class in this series. So foremost I would show you how this encode method works. Now, what is it main application? Now, this is more like a, cryptography. Now, what I mean by cryptography is that, see, whenever you send any communication on the internet, it has to be secured. If you don't secure it, then that communication that you have sent, expecting that the intended person had received it, is not going to happen. Someone else will receive the information, interject and manipulate, and thereby causing financial damage, relationship damage. A lot of things can happen. So this is the protective cover. So what exactly does this do? This encodes the plain text to UTF. Okay, now what is the UTF? You should be knowing this. It's called a Unicode transformation format. Okay, and then send them the message. Okay, so that is how this Unicode works. Now you can actually consider its functionality similar to the functionality of an envelope. Now, suppose you, in those days, right, you want to send a letter. What do? You write the letter and then place it in an envelope and then seal it, and then you post it. Now, if the envelope is broken in the sense if the envelope is open, then the seal would show that. Okay, that is how the email, or I should say the letter communication, took place in those days. But now, if you were to send an email, if you are not encoding it, somebody interjects and takes the message, you will not know at all. You will not even have any clue that the message was interjected. Because 99% of the times when people send the email, they think the email is secure, they accept it that the email server is going to do its job. But the securities that go into play, no one is aware of. So it is always advisable to have email communication from reliable email server providers or service providers. So these people, they literally ensure that your email that you are sending, if you are created an email server, you should only create email servers with those people who have a very good reputation of sending emails in a protective fashion. Okay, so that is a different side of the story. But as far as the encoding is concerned, this particular method is concerned, I will demonstrate to you how exactly it functions. So let me just comment all this off and give you an illustration. So message, I'm going to give you this code, Python code message, and this is going to be the thing. We are happy to state that your tender, this is a very sensitive information, your tender for the job is accepted by the board, and so please complete the formalities, something like that. Okay, so I'm coming over here. This is the message, this is the email that is being sent by the people to whom you have submitted a tender. Now this is a sensitive information because they are saying that your tender is approved and you need to complete the formalities. So that would mean it is not 100% complete. So there is a small percentage which they call it as formalities that have to take place. Now between this action of you completing the formalities and then issuing you the tender award, anybody can interject and provide them with a tender that is more competitive, and thereby you losing the tender is also there. And it is imperative to mention here that 90% of the times the award of tender, though the email is received by the person, actually happens to slip from completing the formalities. I'm not saying it, this is a social research, right? This information is from social research. So this communication is very crucial. To protect this communication, what we need to do is we need to code this. Coded text is equal to, I'm going to take the message is there, and then I'm going to call the encode method, and then I'm going to use this UTF, Unicode transformation format. So you open a code and type UTF, it's an 8-bit, right, and give -8. So this is exactly how you should give. And then now the text is coded. Now you go and print the byte text. Please follow instructions. This instruction has to be followed, and probably you can give that coded text, so nobody will know what is happening. So I'm going to run this. So if I run this, you can clearly see how the output is. See, we are happy to state that your tender for the job is so and so, and you got to be there. Okay, so this is already converted into bytes, right? It's a byte text. Anybody cracking this, they would not know what this information is, because it is already encoded into a byte format. Okay, so this is the functionality of encode. Now, once this message is received by the server, concerned person has to read the message, right? And the question is, how the person is going to read the message if it is in byte format? So for that, we got another method. So over here, what I'm going to do is, I am going to be commenting this, and I'm going to show you how the decode works. So this is the decode method. Now what does it do? The message that is received, okay, this method converts the bytes to the string back, right? So that is done at the receiving end. Okay, so as I mentioned to you, the email service providers, they receive this information, but they would not be able to see this. It is in byte format. But when the information is transferred to you, then this method will be applied and you will be able to see this. So how this is work? So this is going to be the coded text is equal to the message that we have received. So what is the message we received? We received this message in byte format. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to put a B there and open a single quote and place the message. So this has got a double quote. Take the double quote. If you want, you can take the double quote. It doesn't matter, because this is already in byte format. And now encrypted or decrypted message. Decrypted text is equal to, you call the decode. You got to call the decode. So foremost, you go to the coded text, and in the coded text you apply the decode. So decode, what you're going to decode? You're going to decode this text using UTF-8, and then you're going to print the decrypted text. That's it. So I'm going to run it, and you will see the output. So clearly we are happy to state that your tender for the job is accepted by the board, and so please complete the formalities. Okay, so that's a short form. So this is how these two methods work. So we'll move on to the next one. Now the next method we are going to be learning is called as the format method. This is a very nice method, specifically given that these days people are using pre-made invitation cards, greeting cards, and so on and so forth, to be sent to their friends, to their families, to colleagues, to co-workers, to employees, and so on and so forth. So this comes in handy in situations like that. So what exactly does this method do? This is used to format the given information. Okay, so this information comes from the user. So that is the purpose of this particular method. So having known this, let me give you an illustration. Now imagine you want to send out invitations to say 20 of your friends. Now you want that particular information to have a proper citing. It gives a feeling of being personalized. Now there is a lot of difference when you say you are invited for this party at 7 p.m. and you can mention the name of the person. Say, hi dear Matthew, you are invited for this party, right? So these two things make a huge difference. The former is just information that you are sending it out, but the later is highly personalized. So this technique gives us that ability. So after all, human relationships are very important. You need to have good rapport with your colleagues or with your friends and employees and so on and so forth. So having mentioned that, let me give this example. So I want to send out this information for 5 people, or say this illustration I'm going to do it for 3 people. I don't want to keep entering 5 names or 20 names or like that. So for I in range of 3, I'm going to say name is equal to input. Please enter the name of the guest. Okay, so the guest name is received here. Now after we have received the name of the guest, this is going to be the message. Message is equal to you are invited to the party. The party starts at 7 p.m. Place Santo Bong Resort. Okay, so the place is given and be there. Now this, if you don't give the name, it looks very blank. Let us see how the message is going to be printed. So I'm going to say print. What I'm going to do, I will open up the text like this. I'm going to say dear, I'm formatting here. So I'm giving an open parenthesis, close parenthesis, right? So to bring in the name, what we should do is we should come out of that code and then give the format and then write the name there. That's fine. So this will take care, and then we will print the message. Message has to be printed. Print message. Okay, so if you want, you can place an exclamatory mark there, so it gives a big feeling there. So dear, okay, that's it. And this communication will be executed 3 times. So I'm saving it, I'm running the code. So please enter the name of the guest. I'm going to enter Matthew. Okay, so dear Matthew, you see that? Dear Matthew, how beautiful it is. You are invited to the party starts at thing, and then this communication will be sent. It will be directed. Now we can write the subsequent code below this so that this is properly, channeled. And as I mentioned to you, this is the email communication. We need to incorporate a few methods to secure it. So that's how it is done. But for now, we will proceed on to give 2 more names. Say I'm going to say Jasmine. So dear Jasmine, you are invited to the party. It starts there. Okay, but nobody is going to know that this communication has been sent to 20 people, 30 people, or 40 people. All that they will see is this, dear Jasmine. Okay, so you can go and give the other name. Say I'm going to give say Ravina, something like that. So the name starts and then the message. Okay, so this is a beautiful program how we can incorporate the format method that we have just mentioned here. So this is really comes in very much handy, specifically for pre-designed templates of invitations and greeting cards and so on and so forth. So having mentioned that, let me comment this off, and I will now demonstrate to you what this other method is. Now this is also another formatting method. So I'm going to say format map. Now this is a powerful method in fact. Now what does it do? it takes, suppose you have a set and you have defined some information for a student or connecting pertaining to a student, you can actually utilize this method. So this is actually a sophisticated method, more sophisticated than the format method which I've just given you in the previous illustration over here. So let me show you how this works. I can simply give a word of description. Okay, this is also a formatting tool, but it uses mapping, okay, for its application. Okay, so how exactly does this work? So I'm going to say student details, student underscore details, right? And I'm going to give, say, the name of the person. So the name of the student, name is there, and I'm going to give, say, let me give Jasmine. So this is a string, and then you give a delimiter, comma, and then you need to have age. As such is a string, but it is storing a numeric quantity. And then one more thing, telephone, go over here, code, there's a numeric value 1 2 3 4 5. You can either have it as a numeric value or convert it into a string. Okay, so these are the information. Now what I can just state here, I can say student details 1, and then I can go up here, I can give student details 2. So in this case, some other phone number and some other age and something like that. Okay, so name, age, and telephone number. Perfect. So we have to change the variable here too. Two information are present pertaining to a student. Now we need to now get the message. Message is ready. Please pick it up from the front desk. Okay, now this is just for the transcript. Now what you need to do is just give a decimal point and then say format underscore map. And why are you giving this? Because this method will look for this information that you have given here. So that is the reason. So what you got to do, you have to go copy this and paste it there. Right, student details. That's fine. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this, and I am going to give an empty print, and I'm going to give this message and name it as message 1. Two information are being passed. Message 2. So dear so and so, the refund is ready. Okay, is ready. Please pick it up from the front desk. Please pick it up from the front desk. So you can see that these two are different informations. Now this format map will look for this required information from student underscore details 2. Okay, so now what we can do is we can say print message 1 and then print message 2. So two different messages are going out from the front desk. Now if they are handling say 30 students for 40 students or 100 students or 200 students, then you need to exclusively personalize it. Now that is exactly what I've done, and it's not a big difficult task that I've just shown you here. It's a simple thing. And similarly you can extract the phone numbers, the age, the phone number, whatever information you want, and you can send it. So it's just write once and run it any number of times. So let me run this and show the outcome to you. So clearly you see that, dear Jasmine, the transcript is ready, please pick it up from the front desk. Dear Josh, the refund is ready, please pick it up from the front desk. Lovely. So that is how we use the two methods, format and format map. So we'll move on to see the other methods. Okay, so having mentioned these important methods, let's continue our study in learning other methods. So now comes the next important method. This is more like a check. Is title. This method actually checks if the given string is in title format. Right now you might be asking me, where exactly is this applied? Right? Many times when we see things like this, people really want to know where exactly this method is used. Now, specifically in text processing, and more so if you want to write, say you're giving a PhD thesis. Example, you are writing your PhD thesis or presenting a write-up of your work. Let me write that. You are presenting your research paper to a publication. Now, you have to understand, the publication will only publish based on two things. First, the most vital thing, when you send something to the publisher, it has to be written in the format that the publisher wants. That is imperative. You know why? Many times these publication companies are actually very busy, and number two is they don't want to spend any time to literally go into the details of some work from some Tom, Dick and Harry. Something like that. They don't want to spend their time. And number three is that it would be much better if people who are sending information to them is written and presented in the manner which they are well used to. So in that case, they will be utilizing, or I should say, they wouldn't be wasting much time. So it's easy for them. This is similarly writing an examination, right? You are asked to write an examination, say as a subjective paper, and you are writing the paper and you're sending it to the teacher. Now the teacher would be very much happy if you have written the paper in good handwriting. That means you need to make sure that you are adhering to the format that the teacher has taught you. In that case, what happens is that the teacher would be, first, the teacher, he or she would be very happy to see the paper. Number two, she will be interested in spending more time in giving you the right judgment. That is why when you are presenting or writing a paper, you need to use preset templates, or you need to use applications that would actually help you in adhering to the formats, right? Because whenever you're writing a paper, there is a fixed format. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give an example. You're presenting your research paper to a publication. So you need to adhere to the format set up by them, right? It's a simple case of work ethic. If you want your paper to be published, it's simple as that, right? So if you're not interested, then your actions would be exactly directly in the opposite direction. The simple way of truth. Okay, so now imagine there is an application you're working with, and this application has got this method. So now it is going to check for the title, right? The title of the paper, title of your paper. I'm just making it clear, and this is what you are giving: synthesis of cane sugar. This is your research paper, right? And this is how you are writing. Now you have to understand, people who are doing research need not necessarily know everything about formatting. So that's the reason it is advised, when you're writing a paper, make sure to use applications which have that capability to correct your flaws. So in this case, this is the title. Now we are going to check if this title entered by the user is actually in line to the format that is required. So for that, we need to run a check. So how do we run a check? So I'm going to give result, a variable. Result is equal to, let me utilize this title of your paper and call the method is title. I'm calling the method, and then I'm going to print the result. Print, please read the result of your paper. Okay, and then you say comma, and probably I'll do one over here. Does your paper, maybe I'll say research paper, does your research paper adheres to the required format? this is the question that is posed, and you get the answer. Okay, simple code. I hope you are following the code that I've just placed here. If you have any issues, just go back, rewind the video and listen to the explanation that I've given. Okay, let me run the code. When I run the code, what do I get? I get false. Please read the result of your paper. Now, so this is the header of the information that is coming. So the person will read, and what does it say? Does your research paper adheres to the required format? It says false. No, it doesn't adhere. So now what I'll do is I can actually do one more check. If you want, you can do one more check, or else we can move on. So that check is that if in case the person corrects and resubmits. So I do a capital form here. I do a capital form. The person is taking it back and resubmitting. Let us assume the person is resubmitting. So let us run it. And upon resubmission, see, he says true. Does your format adheres to the required, does your paper adheres to the required format? Yes, it says true. So that this is a lovely method that is actually doing the work of a if-else statement. If you were to see that, it's actually doing the work of an if-else statement. Within just one method, you get to see a whole lot of things. Okay, so the next method that we are going to see is space. Okay, now this comes very much in user validations. Now, for example, you are submitting a user form. Okay, you are giving out a user form, sharing out the user form, or it can be a questionnaire, or even a questionnaire, right? And you expect the person, whomever you are giving the questionnaire to fill in. You expect answers to all the questions, right? But most times people will just pass. They won't give the answers. Most times they will give an empty field. But in the digital world, that cannot happen if you're utilizing the methods like this, right? Is space. So what is the basic story here? You are sharing out the user form, and it can be a questionnaire also, and you expect the answers to all of them, right? Now, when they actually fill in the boxes, if they give an empty space, you should be able to capture it. That's the idea behind here, right? You should be able to take it. Now, when I say empty spaces, now sometimes some languages take spaces like this to be a text, right? So you should be able to capture this. This is a very sensitive information, right? They're giving blanks, but these are blanks. But some codes, they are so written that these blanks will be considered as text. So we don't want that to happen. So that is where a space comes. So what does this do? Okay, just let me write that down. This method has the ability to spot out, or I will say to find out, blank spaces or white spaces. Okay, so that is the functionality. So how do we give that? So message, or I will say username, enter name, right? User name. So I'm going to get an input. So input, please enter a valid name. A valid name. So this is the requirement. So we are going to capture this information, and then we are going to say result dot user. I will say result is equal to username. I'm going to check. Okay, is space. Is it a space? If this is true, I'm going to check here. If result equals true, right? You print it. Why don't you enter a name? Why not, or why don't you enter a valid name? Maybe you can give some other message also. is it that are, because this can be quite frustrating if you are running a questionnaire and you want people to actually answer the questions and people are just simply giving empty words or blank spaces, then it's difficult. So else, if this is not the case, else print thanks for filling up, thanks for your time. Okay, so that's a message. So what we're going to do is we are actually going to try this. If this ends up in true, there is going to be a check. I'm checking if result is equal to true. If it is equal to true, then this is the situation. Enter a valid name. I'm going to enter spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces, blank spaces. Why don't you enter a valid name? Is it that hard? You see that? That's lovely. So let me run it one more time. And then this time I'm going to say Jasmine. Thanks for your time. You see that? This is a lovely code. So having given you this space, it's time for us to move on to the next method. Now this is also a very good method. So let me just, if you want to comment, block comment, just press Control and / all of these things will be commented. Now this is the next method. Now is it printable? Now is it printable? Now this is a powerful method. Now why is it powerful method? It checks for characters. It can be either way. It checks for characters that cannot be printed, right? It checks for characters that cannot be printed, or it checks for characters that can be printed. So you can use can or cannot. When exactly this method comes into play? Okay, so I've got this code. Now this is the message that is being sent by one of the employees. Now the person starts with dear sir, there is a line break here, and then thank you for your time, a line break, and then I will be there, a line break, and with kind regards, a line break, yours sincerely, a line break, and so on and so forth. Now I'm going to run this command, is printable on this particular message, and I'm going to give the result to this person. So this result would be sent to the concerned person before the printing is actually executed. So based on this result, the person can either remove all these spaces or these line breaks, or take this job to some other printing or some other printer. Okay, so having mentioned this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this and I'm going to run it. So once I run it, the decision on your printing is false. So that would mean if false. So what we can do, we can little bit do it like this. If false, if result equals false, okay, else, you can state like this, your printing job has to be rerouted to printer A, something like that. Okay, you don't need this. So, and then you can give another instruction. Probably you have already given the instruction. If false, your job has to be rerouted. Now the variable is result, right? So make sure that the variable is correct. So make sure to follow the Python if statement requirement. So over here, this is fine. I'm going to save this and watch it. Your printing job has to be rerouted to printer A. Fine, good, fair enough. Why? Because too many line breaks. Maybe you can give. So that would make the person clear. Because of too many line breaks, right? So now the person would be well aware of it. And I am of the opinion that this is a fairly well-informed decision to be sent to the employee, so that they are learning how exactly to send messages and how exactly to protect the office resources. So in this case, your printing job has to be rerouted to printer A because of too many line breaks. Okay, so now this is informed, and the person will be in a better position to operate it now. So this is a lovely method, I would say, to learn. So having given you this method, so let me give you this one more method for today's class, and then if there are any other methods that are left, I will make sure that is done. So now this is another method. Now this method is called as isNumeric. Okay, this is an isNumeric method. So what does it do? This is actually a validator. This checks if the input is numeric, is a number. Okay, so that's a powerful method. Now, when exactly this can happen? Now, sometimes, in fact, many times, whenever you are getting information of the user, specifically with regard to credit card information or telephone information, people will simply enter whatever they want. So this can act as one of the checks. Say, for example, credit card. Of course, it's sensitive. Credit card information is sensitive. But if you are buying a product, you need to ensure that you are actually taking some precautions whenever you're using the application. That's one part. Taking all the precautions that are due from your end. And number two is you need to ensure that the site on which you are using that has a good reputation. That's important. Now what I will do is, instead of saying credit card, I will say mobile number, and I will ask for the input, please enter mobile number. This can be an input, or I will give the number, right? 1 2 3 4 5 6 and 3 4. This is a number. So I will run the result here. Result is equal to mobile number dot isNumeric. I'm calling this number method isNumeric onto this. So if it is a number, then print. In fact, I can give a check here. If result is false, you can give a check. Please print. Please. This will throw them off. Please enter a valid number. Why it will throw them off? They would be thinking that the number is being checked, but actually they wouldn't know that we are just utilizing this method to check if it is a number or not. So this is a nice way. Else print. Thanks for your time. Okay, that's it. So you save it and you run it, and you will get this information. Thanks for your time. You have entered a number, right? Now you can take an input for this matter. So in this case, you can remove it, and you can say input, please enter a valid telephone number or mobile number, right? So you're sending in a request, you're receiving the number, you're running this method, and then you're making the decision here. So that's a nice way. So I'm giving an input here. The person is giving, say, UORP, something like this. You never know. Immediately output comes, please enter a valid number. You see that? This is such a beautiful number. So in this class, I would be starting off with this method, index. Now, what does this method do? Now, this is useful in finding the occurrence of a substring. If the substring is not found, then this method would raise an error, right? So that is the beauty of this particular method. So I will comment this off. Now let me give you a real life situation here. You are a CEO of a company, and you are sending in a contract for the job. Now let me assign the job to be a programmer. Now, as a part of the acceptance process, the person has to clearly state that he or she accepts and will comply by the rules of the company. So this is the message that you're looking for. When I say message, you would not be checking for the entire message, but certain substring in the message. So the substring is, I accept your contract or your offer, and will comply by the rules of the organization. So you are looking for this substring, I accept and comply. Now if these two things are there, then they mean a lot. Meaning the oncoming employee will clearly understand that if he or she breaks any of the set out contractual obligation, then they will face the consequences. Simple as that. So you are basically looking for this term accept and comply. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this particular string and I'm going to write a code for this. So when the email comes, I will actually run this code on the email. If I get a positive reply, in other words, positive reply in the sense the index would be displayed. If I get an index, then I'm okay with the person coming on board. So let me just give this line of code. Acceptance message is equal to, this is the message, and then verification is equal to get the message, acceptance message, and you run this method index. And what are you looking for? You're looking for the word accept. So in this case, this is verification 1, and verification 2, you're looking for comply. So this is verification 2, and then you can print this, print verification 1, print verification 2. Okay, so we will save it and we will execute the code. So it says 2 and 32. So that means the word accept is present over here, 0, 1, 2, right? And comply occurs at 32. So that's fine. Now what if the person is not using these two words? Let's see what the output is. So I shall consider your contract and will reply, instead of comply the person will say, and will reply at a later date. Now as a CEO, the CEO does not have time to read all these things. You have to understand that. So the message is received, the concerned person will run this code onto the message, and let us run this and check it out. Now the index is not present, so this exception is thrown. So have that in mind. That is how this particular method works. If the index is not found, an exception will be thrown. So that is the illustration. We'll move on to the next method. Okay, so this is the next illustration. So this has to be commented. Let me comment this off. So the next method is called as rIndex. Now what does this method do? Now this looks for the substring, looks for the last occurrence of a given substring. Now you may be wondering, what exactly does this mean, last occurrence? Now it means where exactly this particular string is located from the rightmost extreme. So the engine will be starting its search from the right end. So that's the reason that R is present. Now when will all this method be used? In other words, where exactly can we find a real-time application? Now whenever software engineers are joining an organization, or for that matter anybody is joining an organization, they would be given a list of do's and don'ts, right? So that list will contain at least say 30 items. Now in each of the 30 items you can either answer will or will not. Okay, either will or I will not. So imagine 30 items are listed and the HR has to look what the person has answered. Actually this will and will not, there are no set principles by which these words occur, will or will not. Say for example, if there is a situation, I dash cooperate with my colleagues. So there in that scenario, will be the most appropriate word, right? So like that 30 phrases would be given and the employee has to fill in. Now imagine the HR is looking for the very last phrase. The last phrase goes like this: I will not engage in acts or actions that conflict with interest of the company. Fair enough, right? So this is what is required, right? Now imagine this is part of another sentence. So in this case, I will cooperate or I will support the organization and the colleagues, something like that, and so on and so forth. And you can clearly see will not is occurring here actually. So probably if the sentence is still more, and will participate in all promotional activities of the HR department and the marketing department. Right now you can clearly see that this sentence is really long. You see that this sentence is really long and the HR has to run the code. So that's not an easy process. Imagine if suddenly the company decides to get an undertaking from 300 employees or 3000 employees. Manually it will take ages to complete this process. All that the person has to do is to look for this particular phrase. Where is that? You see, even for the naked eye, mechanically scanning is not easy. So will not, this has to be looked for. So what I'm going to do is I am going to copy this text, okay, and then I'm going to run a code using rIndex. So I'm going to say message received from the staff is equal to the message, and next line I have to run the code. So verification 1. It can be many layers of verification. So message received, on this message received I'm going to call the rIndex method. Okay, now if the index is present, the result will have a number. So will not, this is what is being searched for, so we will give that. We save it and we run it, and it says it occurs at 140th position. Fine. Now in case this person has not included this will not, say instead of will not, the person says will engage. Imagine a situation like that. Okay, so in that case the HR has to spot it. As I mentioned to you, spotting is not easy for the naked eye, so that's the reason we would be employing this line of code. So I've saved this, and then I would be running this line of code. So if I run this, an exception is thrown. As I mentioned to you, whenever we get an exception, it means that index is not present. So having given you this illustration, we move on. Now the next one is very interesting one. Specifically, it comes in handy whenever we process data. Now suppose the information is given in this following fashion. So let me write this method. It's called a split lines, and what does it do? It splits the data when it encounters a line break. So that's the simplest way to actually describe this method. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give in some data, okay, data values, and these values are given on as a line break. They are separated by line break, but the line break is not actually going to be showing out here. It will be in text form. So this is how we always get, or we usually get data, right? Either with separators like this or delimiters and so on and so forth. Okay, so much so for that. Now let me give you the data. So I'm going to give data names of the person, right, in our organization. Say Tom, and a line break, say Harry, and a line break, say Liz, or Lisa, a line break, Jasmine, a line break, and then Anna, a line break, and then okay. So these are the names of the people who are working in a team. Now I'm going to give this information. So team members is equal to data values, and I'm going to run this split command. Split lines, that's it. And then I will print the team members. The team selected for the project is, so you can say print team members. Okay, so I'm saving it. It is split lines. Okay, so I'm running the code. Team selected. You see that we are getting a list here. So let's head on to the next one. This is called as remove prefix, and as the name suggests, this is used to remove unwanted elements from the data, and it's used in data cleaning. So how does this work? Now suppose you have got name of the user is equal to, say, it's like this, smoking Jones. The name is Jones, right? I don't want the smoking to be there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say accepted name is equal to, take the name that the user has given and you run this method remove prefix. And what are you trying to remove? You're trying to remove smoking Jones, or I should say you're trying to remove the first part of it, smoking hyphen, and then you print name of the person colon comma accepted name, right? So you save it and then you run it. So you get just Jones. So that's a nice way. Now finally we got one more method to go, and that would be remove suffix. Okay, so what does this method do? This is used to remove the same thing, unwanted elements. From where? From the real side. Okay, so how do we exactly use this? So let me say name user is equal to, suppose you got something like this, say jones.txt. I don't want this .txt. I want to get rid of this .txt. So accepted name is equal to name underscore user dot remove suffix. So what you want to remove? You want to remove that .txt, and then you can print the name of the person, name, and then comma accepted name. Okay, so you save it and then you copy it, you run it, and then you get Jones, right? So this is, suppose I'm changing the name to Alpines, then saving it. I'm changing it because you'll be able to recognize the name and the illustration to be different. So there's output. So students, this completes our complete lesson on string methods. I hope you have enjoyed this class. Go through these methods, practice them, and make sure that it becomes second nature. Because if you're good in these string methods, you will find these methods to be immense use, specifically if you are in the field of data sciences, and more so in data cleaning, because no matter what information has been given in, they have to be cleaned. And as I mentioned to you, the information which are of strings, they have inherently an element of error being placed in them, right? So no matter how you give instructions or what sort of instructions you give to the user to fill in, they are going to be carrying some errors. Sometimes it will maybe few in number, and sometimes it might be larger number. So in Python we got all of these string methods which are versatile, and we can use them to make sure that we are able to achieve the expected tasks in a perfect manner. And by doing that, what we do, we not only move ourselves up in the ladder, both economically as well as in case of the reputations, because a skill which you have got, if it is really versatile and if it is really a great skill, then you are the most wanted person or the most wanted professional. Thank you students, enjoy your day.